Hey, hey, hey. Happy Valentine's Day. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. It is Valentine's Day, or I guess we should say Valentine's night, in my neck of the woods, and this is live stream 887. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then normally I'll take a first look at a tabletop game. Tonight, a little bit different. We are going to delve on into the Book of Ebon Tides from Kobold Press. I am going to share my review of this 5e supplement in just a bit. Also, if you're not overly familiar with this show, we tackled the tabletop gaming news first. So if you are tuning in to check out my review of Book of Ebon Tides, it'll probably be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we jump on into that. So if you're watching live, kick back, relax, put your feet up. If you're a subscriber, you get to do something else too, which I'll mention in just a bit. But relax, be good to yourself. Now, of course, if you happen to watch this show 30 minutes or more after the stream ends, and you happen to be one of those impatient types who wants to get right on into the review, you can. There are going to be timestamps. All you got to do is click on the timestamps. They are located in the show notes, and depending on what device you might be watching this on, could be right there in the timeline in front of you. So if that's the case, you'll be able to jump ahead and check out the review. Although I've got a lot of cool news tonight. I usually have some nice, interesting tidbits to share with you. Before I get into the news, do want to mention this was supposed to be Kobold Press Week. So, of course, yesterday I shared my review of Tome of Beasts 3 Layers. And tonight I am going to share my review of Book of Ebon Tides. And tomorrow night I was originally going to be reviewing Tales from the Shadows. But I have received an email telling me that Dungeons & Dragons Keys from the Golden Vault is going to arrive tomorrow. So we will be taking a first look at that live right here on the Dispatch. So keep that in mind. Now, if for some reason it doesn't show up in time before the stream is slated to begin, I will still review Tales from the Shadows. Now, of course, if Keys from the Golden Vault does arrive in time for me to share it on the live show, then I will review Tales from the Shadows on Tuesday next week, because there will not be a Monday show. Yes, for a change, I actually remember there's a holiday on Monday. Usually I don't remember there's holidays on Mondays until it's like Friday. And I've already said on the Wednesday show, I'll see y'all on Monday. Yeah, that's how it usually works. Just all one long day around here. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So remember, I said if you're watching live and you're a subscriber, you'll have something to do. Well, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, or you got a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. I'll do my best to respond. Should also point out you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. It's yet another way that I keep some of those more unusual commenters at bay. So first out the gate tonight, I believe it was the Motor City Madman I saw popping up, and it certainly was. The Madman is with us. He is one of our chat moderators, so behave. Stray Kismet, Shaz, Flaming Huron, yet another of our chat moderators, is in the house, as is Kathy Evans. So very nice. Very nice. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I don't know if everybody celebrates out there. Yeah, I don't have anybody to give anything to, so it's sort of like, whatever. But hopefully you can feel my platonic love for you emanating from whatever screen you're watching this on. It's either that or radiation, one of the two, but you can feel it. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Let's jump on into the news, because arriving sometime in Q1 is the family game Twisty Tracks. Here's the latest from Rio Grande Games. Some people just want to get from point A to point B. For others, the journey is the destination. In Twisty Tracks, players are rewarded for both long journeys and arrival at point B, assuming not too many others arrive there first. Each player has their own playing area that consists of a cardboard frame that depicts stations, loops of train track, and 4 train depots. Place a wooden train on each depot and shuffle face down your personal stack of 15 track tiles. On a turn, each player draws a tile, then places it somewhere in their frame so they can advance at least one of their trains along the track. When you advance a train, you score 1 point each time it crosses the border between 2 tiles and between a tile and the frame. Try to send trains on long, loopy journeys to score lots of points. If a train reaches one of the 7 stations on the frame, you receive the highest value for that station, which hasn't been claimed. Wait too long and you risk scoring nothing. If 2 of your trains collide while moving on freshly laid tracks, you score points for the borders they've crossed, then remove them from play. Yikes. When all 4 of your trains have reached stations or been removed, stop placing tiles. Once all players' trains have stopped moving, the game ends, and whoever has scored the most points wins. In a tie, the tied player who placed more tiles wins. And for an easier game, you can play with only the station scoring or only the border scoring. Twisty Tracks is for 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, plays in around 15 to 30 minutes, will carry an MSRP of $44.99 when it arrives once again, sometime in Q1. Rio Grande Games has quite a few titles that are hitting first half of the year. In fact, they just announced another game that I would have shared some news about, but there's no images. See, that's one of the problems I find with Rio Grande Games is they share a box cover, and that's it. These 2 images I'm sharing alongside the box cover actually come from the designer. I actually tracked down the designer's Twitter account, and those 2 images were in his feed. So this sounds like a fun game. This is actually a 2nd edition of the game as well. I think the 1st edition was not released in North America. I think it was released, only over in Europe. So this is the first appearance of Twisty Tracks. So our friend Chad from Taiwan has joined us in chat. So there's Straight Kismet says, is asking the Madman if the Madman would be their Valentine's moderator. And Madman replied that his wife might get jealous and they don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. That's kind of funny. Will you be my Valentine's Day chat moderator, please? Oh, you folks are silly out there. Next up, arriving this spring from WizKids is Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Scrawlers Heroes of Waterdeep. Say that 5 times fast. Here's the skinny. In Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Scrawlers Heroes of Waterdeep, you'll race your opponents through a thrilling dungeon scrawl. Players each take their own copy of the same dry erase dungeon map and a dry erase marker, starting with their marker on the start page, start space, I should say. When the game begins, they'll speed through the maze using a single unbroken line. Along the way, they'll have to face challenges that earn them points, fill in a monster to defeat them, circle a treasure to take it, trace a spell to cast it, and more. The game ends when time runs out or when someone defeats the final boss. And whoever has the most points, you guessed it, is the winner. Plus, players will pick one of 5 available classes, each with their own special ability. Journey to Waterdeep as you explore a wide variety of locations, haunted streets, crowded ports, labyrinthine hedge mazes, and even a take on Xanathar in his lair. The game also includes a deck of mini dungeon cards that you'll draw when you drop to a deeper layer of the dungeon. Each one is unique, providing different paths for different players, and which exit you find determines where you'll pop back out on the main map. You can even play an always changing game mode with just the dungeon cards, where players hop from card to card, eventually reaching a random final boss with a unique challenge. There's even a massive final dungeon featuring 2 dragon bosses that takes up 2 entire sheets. Get ready to scroll your way to riches. This is a standalone game and has everything you need to play through its challenging dungeons, as well as that new mini dungeon mode. Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Scrawlers Heroes of Waterdeep is for 1 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, plays around 15 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $29.99 when it arrives in April. So I believe they have made some changes to this Dungeon Scrawlers line of games, because I think the first one, trying to remember the name of it, I forget. I think the first one was sort of, I think that was kind of the response to it, sort of. But I mean, the addition of the dungeon card sounds kind of interesting. Sounds kind of interesting. I don't know about you folks out there, but I think the roll and write genre is, I think that whole just, I don't know. I don't want to call it a fad, but I think it's kind of losing some of its steam. I really do. I think we've kind of seen what roll and write can provide for us, and this looks pretty cool. Just like the roll and write that Daily Magic Games did for Valeria. I want to say, isn't it Dice Kingdoms? Might be Dice Kingdoms of Valeria. I like that one. I thought that was pretty fun. But once again, not a whole lot different happens in it. That, you play it a few times and it starts to get a little samey. So I kind of get the feeling that's what we're seeing with roll and write overall. Although, like I said, this could be some fun. Let's move on to some role-playing game news because the 6th year of the Starfinder Society is about to kick off this May. I've got the scoop from Paizo Inc. The Starfinder Society stands proud and united, yet trouble gathers on the horizon when a mysterious and powerful criminal syndicate dubbed the Organization enacts a bloody attack within the Pact Worlds. First Seeker U Hadif vows to bring an end to their predations. Yet this attack is only the opening salvo in a plot destined to doom millions. It's up to you to unravel the plans of the organization and bring the group's leaders to justice. Will the Starfinder Society emerge triumphant, or will the organization be our downfall? Welcome to the year of Fortune's Fall. There are 7 Starfinder Society scenarios that will directly influence the year of Fortune's Fall's metaplot. Like last year, each will be marked with a special metaplot icon on the cover. The year of Fortune's Fall metaplot kicks off with the Starfinder Society intro, Year of Fortune's Fall, an adventure for 1st to 4th level characters written by Mypia. I think I may have pronounced that name correctly. This exciting scenario is centered on a gala celebration hosted by the Grand Museum of Quabarat on Castrovel. This scenario debuts at PaizoCon 2023 alongside one other Starfinder Society scenario. With launch of year 6, the following species will become always available for organized play. Get ready. We've got the Knoll, the Hanakan, the Carinta, the Quarlu, the Rexilite, and the Shimmering. And I would take a guess that I have pronounced a few of those correctly. Not all of them, just a few. 4 other species will become purchasable with achievement points. Kobold, Cyanoid, the Schizazon, and the Uplifted Bear. I for some reason, I like bear folk. I don't know what it is. And I'm not a furry either. So I don't know. Additionally, many species that were showcased in Starfinder Interstellar Species, such as the Contemplative and Urog, will have their ACP cost reduced. Take care, Starfinders. May fortune favor you. This year, PaizoCon 2023 will take place virtually. There is no physical aspect to it this year, but it's going to take place May 26th through the 30th. Sweet. Very nice. I like the fact that Paizo has their organized play for Pathfinder and Starfinder. And to my knowledge, they actually do pretty well at various different game stores. I like that. I like that quite a bit. Interestingly enough, I actually receive the Society Adventures. So I get them for Pathfinder and Starfinder. I never really take a peek at them, though, because I don't review those. I don't have Sammy review them either. But you know what I might do? I might actually take a peek at the new Society Adventures that kick off this year. Just take a peek at them, and I don't think I'll do full-fledged reviews on them, but I might talk about them a little bit. There was some new news. New news? Okay, that doesn't sound all that right. By the way, Roger Prudhomme and Russell Higgins are here in chat with us. I think I've said hello to everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And Russell says, look at the big brain on Bob. Let's call him Brad, though. Isn't it Brad? Look at the big brain on Brad. Isn't that what it is from Pulp Fiction? Isn't his name Brad? That is one tasty burger. That's a running gag with my friends and I. The tasty burger. Anyway, there was a fresh news piece that dropped today. That's better. That sounds better than new news. And Free League Publishing has announced a new supplement for Tales from the Loop. Here's the deets on They Grow Up So Fast. Return to the 80s as they never were. Today, Free League Publishing announced They Grow Up So Fast, a new campaign expansion for the award-winning Tales from the Loop role-playing game. A pre-order is available now with immediate access to a complete PDF. Make note of that. Everything changed on that fateful day. Looking back, I know that whatever we did changed our lives forever. The sky ruptured and something strange came through. It was a great adventure that showed us how little we knew about the universe. It was scary and yet magical. I wish we could do it again. In these 4 adventures that together forms a campaign spanning the seasons of a year, the kids will be tested to the limits of their abilities. When an ordinary camping trip turns into something else, they will discover that friends come in all sizes and forms, and even from different worlds. Together, they will go on an adventure they will never forget. This book includes a 4-part campaign taking place in the UK loop of Norfolk Broads. Extensive information on the Norfolk Broads loop and the area surrounding it, as well as tips on how to set the campaign in the Swedish and US loops. There's new maps, I should say, new artwork, and handouts. Tales from the Loop, They Grow Up So Fast should carry an MSRP of $33.99 or thereabout. While the PDF has not released, at least as of this show, through DriveThruRPG yet, I'm going to guess it's going to be somewhere in the area of $14.99 to $19.99. But currently, you can pre-order through Free League Publishing and get this hardcover for $30.97. And maybe more importantly, you get immediate access to that PDF. Sweet. Not something that Free League Publishing does often. In fact, I don't know if I've seen them do this before. I'm trying to think if they have actually announced a release at the same time that they started taking pre-orders for it, and the release was complete, so you could get the PDF right then and there. So pretty cool. I am glad that Free League Publishing is continuing to support Tales from the Loop. I was a little concerned because it had been a while since we'd seen anything. And I think part of it is because so much of Tales from the Loop is tied into the artwork of Simon Stolanog. So I think that's what kind of slows down the process quite a lot for Tales from the Loop. But once again, you can pre-order and get access to They Grow Up So Fast right now. My final news piece available in print from Skullfungus and Exalted Funeral is Isle of Is. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. Regardless, here's the dope. After a terrible storm, you are shipwrecked on a mysterious tropical island. Ancient ruins and strange... Why is that popping up again? What is going on with this lately? I don't know. It's showing stuff from all over the place. I thought we were going to make it through tonight without any issues with the images, but I guess not. And that stinks because I actually had a bunch of the images from this. Rats. Boo. Hiss boo. Anyway, ancient ruins and strange relics litter the island, and primordial dangers are found everywhere. What is the Isle of Is, and is there a way to escape it? Social encounters. Encounter fellow survivors in Wrecktown and interact with odd swamp dwelling mutant tribes and more. This includes permanent character growth, bathe in strange radiation and develop new powers, get a fungal infection, hell, lose a limb. There's treasure galore. Find occult relics and become a wielder of eldritch super magic. Witness the eternal storm, bane of ship and sailor alike. Surely escaping the island is possible, but how? Hunt or be hunted by strange and primordial beasts. All fully illustrated with brief and easy to run descriptions and statistics. It includes a simple rule set. You can create your character and start playing in minutes using rules using the Mark of the Odd license. Use what you can get. Start the game with a pet monkey with profane powers, a cutlass, and some bananas. There are 16 locations to explore, everything from caves, settlements, mysterious structures, alien cities, and the placid lake Is. Need more adventure? Make your own adventures using the many maps and tables provided to further expand the Isle of Is. It's easy to read, easy to run, short and to the point area descriptions with isometric maps and hand-drawn illustrations. It is a low-level, high lethality adventure. Use your wits and a little bit of luck to overcome the challenge ahead. The 48-page A5 hardcover with digital assets, but not the PDF, is available for $27 from Exalted Funeral. Or you can grab the PDF alone over at Roll. App.roll.com, I believe, is the web address for that. But you can get just the PDF over at Roll for $6.66. And unfortunately, I wish I could have shared those additional images with you because this looks like this would be a ton of fun. So that is the Isle of Is. Kathy Evans points out maybe there are technical dungeon trolls. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's going on because I just peeked and the correct files are there. So why it was showing the other files, I do not know because OBS Studio doesn't really have like a cache. It doesn't have a cache that I have to flush or anything like that. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange. All right. Anyway, so that is the Isle of Is from Skullfungus and available over at Exalted Funeral. Sweet. So that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I did not mention DriveThruRPG. Well, I mentioned DriveThruRPG, but it was in regards to the Tales from the Loop supplement that is not available on DriveThruRPG, at least as of earlier this afternoon. It was not. But don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG or Dungeon Masters Vault Guide, Vault, Dungeon Masters Vault, Guild. There's so many of these different sites with different names. Dungeon Masters Guild, as well as Storytellers Vault. That's the vault. Anyway, if you're going to go to any of those sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I'll get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Completely honest, it really, really does. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop over at paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And the madman himself was recently over there, and he made a not so small donation. So much appreciated. Thank you, Madman. And thanks to everybody out there who does use our banner ads for the One Bookshelf sites and or stops by paypal.me. Really do appreciate it, especially since I don't run Kickstarters to keep the gaming gang around. I don't go reaching into your pocket all the time, anything along those lines either. So, anyway, the Madman says, sounds like some chaotic evil gremlins, or Russell Higgins says, well, chaotic neutral at best. Kevin R. Smith is with us. Good to see you, Kevin. Kevin was running a little late, it seems. So, got a nice chat cooking so far tonight. So we are going to be diving on into my review of Book of Ebon Tides from Kobold Press in just a little bit. But there's something I did want to mention. I know the Madman actually sent me a news piece or announcement, I should say, from Holy Grail Games, who their latest Kickstarter that they were looking to fulfill was Rallyman Dirt, the racing game. And I guess Holy Grail Games is closing up shop as of today. And I guess backers have not received, well, okay, so I'm not positive. I didn't dig too far into this news, mainly because I kind of get the feeling we aren't going to get the full story anyway. But I did want to share some thoughts about this, and this is one of the reasons why I still tend to be a little leery on Kickstarters, especially from companies that really aren't large publishers. And yes, I know large publishers should not be using Kickstarter, but they do, and they essentially just use it as an order fulfillment is what they normally will do. And it appears that Holy Grail Games was one of these companies that was using Kickstarters to fund previous projects. So I guess what happened is that their distributor had their product. And I guess they had their copies of Rallyman Dirt, and I think another game as well. And I guess Holy Grail Games owed them money. And Holy Grail Games, at least according to their announcement today, it said they had made an attempt to make a partial payment of what they owed in order for the distributor to ship out the games to the Kickstarter backers, and the distributor refused. So I guess Holy Grail Games doesn't have the funds. They don't have any means of raising the funds to get these games shipped out. So at the end of the day, at least I would think, now once again, I'm not in the industry like that, so I don't know what options are going to be available. But I would think at this point in time, the backers of that are screwed. They will not be getting a copy of the game. Because normally in a situation like this, the distributor who's holding on to the product is just going to liquidate. They're just going to liquidate. They're going to end up selling it to whoever to get whatever funds they can out of it. And then that will now belong to the new purchaser, which in most cases, now we have seen in the past where companies make good by saying, hey, you know, if you'll pay for shipping, I don't think we're going to see something like this, because I think we are going to see more problems like this as the year goes on. So the Madman says North American backers have not received anything, right? Because I think they had only shipped some out to Europe. Madman says they're hoping they can work out a deal with the distribution company so backers at least have an option to pay for the shipping. I don't think you're going to see that. I hate to say that, but I'm not seeing that happening, because the whole thing is whoever buys those games, they have absolutely no obligation to send them to the Kickstarter backers. They don't. And anybody who's buying liquidation stock is looking to turn as much of a profit as they can. So if this was 2019, I would maybe say, yeah, you know what? That sounds like it's doable. That maybe somebody, it depends on what they're paying. If they're paying pennies on the dollar, yeah, then a company could probably turn around and, as a PR stunt, essentially contact the backers and say, hey, you pay shipping, and, what we paid for each game, we'll get these out to you. I don't see that happening. I think I talked about this about a year ago. There are some companies out there, some game companies out there that are in dire straits. They have not publicly discussed it, but I know for a fact that there are some companies that are barely hanging on, and just a couple of bad decisions is what puts you on the path to insolvency, unfortunately. And it does seem as if the folks behind Holy Grail Games, they made some bad decisions. They made some bad choices, and it looks like they got into that death spiral of trying to run new Kickstarters to actually fund the fulfillment of past Kickstarters, which we know is just a disaster that's going to happen. I have yet to see a company that got caught doing that has ended up with a happy ending. I'm not talking about the happy ending you get if you go to the massage parlor. I'm talking about everything works out in the end. So Flaming Heron says it's more they have no obligation to do that. They don't. They have absolutely no obligation. That's even if somebody buys it, which I would think somebody will. So something else I do want to mention, and this is just me, pulling this out of the air or somewhere else. I would think Holy Grail Games did not have a good relationship with this distributor, because I kind of heard through the grapevine as I was kind of peeking around, this distributor had screwed them over a couple of times. So why would you go back to that well? I don't understand that. So if you had worked with a company twice before and both times they fucked you over, you're going to be like, yeah, let's third time's a charm, baby. Let's do this. So I kind of have the impression that their relationship was not good. And when Holy Grail Games contacted them and they said, hey, we'll give you a partial payment, I'm sure that Holy Grail Games was saying, we'll make a partial payment if you release all this product, right? They weren't going to do a trickle. They were going to say, hey, we'll give you a partial payment. You got to send all this stuff out. And I would take a guess. This distributor was like, for one, we don't like you. You don't like us. And no, we're not going to do that, because that partial payment's all we'll end up getting from you. So, don't know. Tessie Trekkie says, good heavens, who burned their backers now? Holy Grail Games. So on one hand, I don't want to sit there and be like tap dancing on a company's grave. That's certainly not the point of me discussing this. But then again, I also don't want to sit there and say, oh, well, market forces conspired against Holy Grail Games. No, they made mistakes. they made poor decisions, and they made some decisions that most companies would not make. So some less than ethical decisions, it sounds like. So that's what happens. That is what happens. So very sorry to hear that. I know the Madman is a backer. So unfortunately, I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but I don't think the backers are going to get anything out of it. In fact, I thought I encountered, and I could be wrong, but I thought I encountered there were backers from a previous Kickstarter from Holy Grail Games that was still, they were waiting for their games to arrive. So I don't know. So Tessie Trekkie says, I can understand why so many Kickstarters now charge shipping after the fact. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you don't see too many out there saying free shipping anymore. That used to be a big deal. There used to be a lot of people who were like, oh, I won't back a Kickstarter if they don't provide free shipping, especially if it's outside North America. Yeah, well, you don't see those anymore. All right. Anyway, kind of sad news all around. Anyway, let's cheer up a little bit, because I'm going to be reviewing Book of Ebon Tides in just a couple of moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's refreshment time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Hey, Mom. Yes, you. Why fuss and fret about dinner? Why not have it right here? Yes, this drive-in offers everyone in the family a real picnic treat for dinner. We've got delicious sandwiches with all the trimmings and your other dinner favorites, plus whatever you want to drink, hot or cold. Come early before the show starts, or eat while you're being entertained, or at intermission time. So why fuss? Give your family a tasty dinner at this drive-in.
If I was a mountain climber, I'd yodel loud and clear. For Bush Bavarian beer.
Bush Bavarian beer. It's America's new taste in beer. For the take, time for fun, kind of living.
If I was you, I'd yodel for Bush Bavarian, too.
This machine will make you want a cup of Wilkins coffee.
Not me. I'll take mine with cream and sugar.
And now, boys and girls, here is what you get when you join the Secret Squadron. This membership card with your very own Secret Squadron number, this official Secret Squadron manual, and this combination badge and decoder. Look, here's how the decoder works. I'll give you a two-word clue. The second word is in our secret code. The first word is watch. Now, here is the secret code word. Write down these numbers. 17, 3, 20. Now, set your secret decoder like this. For code A3. Then decode this important clue to next week's adventure. If you don't have your decoder badge, here's how you can get one for your very own. First, get a jar of the official Secret Squadron drink, delicious chocolate-flavored Ovaltine, the food drink for rocket power. Then, cut out the wax paper disc that covers the Ovaltine jar. And send that disc with your name, your address, to me, Captain Midnight, Box P, Chicago 77, Illinois. That's all. Send no money. It's free to every boy and girl who joins the Secret Squadron. And when you receive your Secret Decoder badge, membership card with your very own Secret Squadron number, and 12-page manual, you'll be a full-fledged member. Remember, get your Ovaltine, the food drink for rocket power. Hot or cold, it's got what it takes to help you be a leader in your gang. So every day, drink instant Ovaltine.
Yes, got to grab my Ovaltine there. All right, why is that? Hold on. It's only before. Things are just... You know what I might end up having to do is I might end up having to reinstall the... There we go. OBS Studio, because it is just... It seems to be screwing up quite a bit. Anyway, all right, so Dante, Viper Brandolini, and Mike S., as well as Agile Monk, are with us in chat. I believe this might be a first-time visit by the Agile Monk. And yes, of course, Ovaltine. Yes, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Son of a bitch. So I love in that commercial, too, Captain Midnight takes a hobby knife, a razor-sharp hobby knife, and he's trimming away the seal to the Ovaltine. It's like, hey, kids, grab yourselves a razor-sharp knife. All righty. Madman points out that they have seen that some of these companies use dish soap, get all the foam in these beer commercials. Well, one thing we have noticed in these old beer commercials is they do not properly pour the beer. So you would get all of that foam the way they pour it. They just pour it straight down into that glass. That is going to foam up all over the place. So Agile Monk says they visit all the time, just don't comment very often. Well, glad to have you on board. Thanks for swinging on in. All right, so tonight I am going to review Book of Ebon Tides. See, now it's supposed to come up. From Kobold Press, it's written by Wolfgang Bauer and Celeste Konowich, with Richard Green, Sarah Madsen, Kelly Pollock, and Brian Suskind, as well as a slew of artists. This 256-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99, or you can score just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Book of Ebon Tides. Hopefully the video will be relatively sharp, fingers crossed. Never know. Just never know with the stream going through YouTube. Sometimes the rendering is pretty good. Other times, not so hot. John Brunhaver is with us, saying that this was just in the Humble Bundle. Yes, it was. Few things I'll mention before we dive on in, and a couple of things I'm going to talk about that are not my usual shtick when I'm doing a review. Should mention, I know we were just talking about Kickstarters not fulfilling, but the Kickstarter for Deep Magic Volume 2 from Kobold Press has a couple of days, 2 or 3 days left to it. And we know Kobold Press has a great reputation of delivering on their Kickstarter. So I do want to let you know that Deep Magic 2 still has 2 or 3 days left. And I do believe that Operation Black Flag is available for playtest. I will have to take a peek a little further into that. I don't know for sure. I kind of heard it through the grapevine just before I was getting ready to start the stream. So I will kind of peek into that after the show and probably make mention of it tomorrow. All right, anyway, let's talk about Book of Ebon Tides. First of all, the fine folks over at Kobold Press were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's very important that you know that. Also, we're not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what's in Book of Ebon Tides and discuss it as I'm paging on through. Should mention, there are no adventures in here, so if you are a player, you might encounter some spoilers, but they're not adventure spoilers. In fact, quite a bit of Book of Ebon Tides is player-facing, and I will discuss that as well. Kevin R. Smith says just the first packet is available for Black Flag. It's 12 pages. Cool. Very cool. All right. So, got a bunch of artists. And I would kind of read through all of them, but I'm sure I would probably butcher at least half of their names. But the art throughout Book of Ebon Tides is top-notch, as we've come to expect from Kobold Press. Now, if you watched last night, I did review Tome of Beasts 3 Layers, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. And sometimes I get the impression that people see that review score and they think, oh, well, that's not very good. Actually, it is. A 7 out of 10 is a recommendation. So, games have to really knock me out to get, 9, 10. So it's important people understand that review last night, I was recommending Layers, but as I had mentioned, it was not as awe-inspiring as I'm used to seeing from Kobold Press. Now, all of that said, this is a completely different product we're looking at now. And I must say, there is a ton to love about Book of Ebon Tides. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the Shadow Realms. So with the Shadow Realm, we've seen reference to this previously in the Midgard setting, which is the home 5e setting from Kobold Press, which I really, really enjoy. I really, really dig it. And we've already discussed in prior reviews about how we have these shadow roads, which adventurers can utilize to travel great distances in a short time. So Flaming Heron says, yeah, I was joking the other night. It really is still a good book, says Flaming Heron. Actually, I'm not kind of like calling out Flaming Heron on the 7 out of 10. It's something that I've noticed from people in the past. I got an email from somebody saying that they were kind of surprised how I didn't like Layers. And I was like, I didn't say that. I said, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I recommended it. I said I recommended it. So anyway, we have already kind of run into the Shadow Roads a little bit. And now we really dive into this Shadow Realm. And there is just a lot of very, very interesting aspects to this. So this book itself is going to provide a slew of player-facing options. So we have new races. We have new sub-races. We've got new backgrounds that players can utilize. And we get a good amount of detail about these races as well. And these races have been touched upon, many of them, in other supplements from Kobold Press, such as like the Bear Folk. But you have to keep in mind, these are the Shadow Realms Bear Folk. So one thing I think is pretty interesting with the approach to these Shadow Realms is that it is a Fey land, but we don't get where we see some publishers, if something's Fey related, then all of a sudden it's all, just crazy. And it's like, all bets are off. So we might see just really oddball things just tossed in. And it's kind of like, well, it's the Fae. That doesn't happen in this, thankfully. This can be very dark. No pun intended, right? It's the Shadow Realms. But it can also be pretty whimsical. So I really enjoy that as well. So we have different races. And one of the things I started to say that I really like about Kobold Press is when they present new player options for player races and sub races, we get a good amount of detail. It's not like we see with Wizards of the Coast these days where they sit there crowing about, oh, you're going to be able to run blah, blah, blah. And then you buy the book and it's 2 paragraphs. It's like, wait a second. That's the new race you've introduced? 2 paragraphs? That's a selling point? That is never the case with Kobold Press. So we get a good amount of player-facing content for these races without having to spend 30 pages sorting through everything. So for the most part, we get a couple of pages all in all. So we're going to get new spells. One other aspect that I think is pretty cool as far as the magic in the Shadow Realm is that there is an option for you to utilize illumination spells almost as counter spells to darkness spells. I thought that was very interesting. I don't necessarily know how many people will use that option, but I certainly do like that. We have quite a few new spells, as you can see. I'm going to flip on through here. And we also have a new sort of magic as well. Then we get into kind of the meat and potatoes. A lot of page space is devoted to the various different courts, as well as servitors of the Fey courts. And they're all very interesting. They're all very unique. So you recall last night when I was talking about layers, I said some of the adventures kind of had sort of the same beats to them. I had mentioned there were back-to-back adventures where an NPC was possessed by a ghost. And I was kind of like, oh, that's sort of weird. I mean, back-to-back adventures. Here we have a lot of very standout entries for the various different courts. And as we see with Kobold Press releases, say like a Gazetteer, we actually get a breakdown of the court. So in the Gazetteers that we've seen, like the Midgard World Book, we get a breakdown of the region and who the rulers are, and we get their heraldry and all the other things. Same thing. The cartography throughout the book is really nicely presented. There are some tactical maps at the end of the book. I don't know how useful they would be in a physical book unless you want to take pictures of them and utilize the images. But if you happen to pick up the PDF, or I'm pretty sure that we are looking at a virtual tabletop version of the Book of Ebon Tides. For a second, I zoned on the title. I was like, it's Ebon Tides. Oh, Book of Ebon Tides. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, if you're picking up like the virtual tabletop edition of this, The tactical maps are really nice. I'll show them to you when we get to that. We also get information about realms beyond these shadow courts in a good amount of detail. Also, we get a lot of page space also devoted to various different monsters and new creatures. We get some details about some of the deities which are worshipped in the Shadow Realms. But as you can see, the artwork is really, really well done. And we get these little sidebars about the Book of Ebon Tides. So that is the Book of Ebon Tides that we keep seeing up here. In case you're curious, what are the Ebon Tides? So they kind of flow through the Shadow Realms. So another interesting aspect of the Shadow Realms is that these Ebon Tides kind of wash through the world and kind of change things. So the locations of some things are not, I guess we'll say, set in stone. That it's possible that you're in one area of the Shadow Realms and it's one certain way, and then the next time you pass through there, it's completely different. So one of the things that kind of keeps things in place, or a trio of things. So it's roads, oak, and stone. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that's what the Ebon Tides are. They are tides of energy that flow through the Shadow Realms and change things. So as I mentioned before, we get a nice amount of page space devoted to monsters and NPCs. I gotta be honest, not a ton of NPCs. They're more creatures throughout, and good stuff. Very, very good stuff. I like the bear folk. There are a couple of new bear folk creatures here. So some of the races that you can now play are the Shadow Realms bear folk, sable elves, shadow goblins, the Dracul, which are ghouls. So you may recall I reviewed the Empire of the Ghouls, which I loved. I thought was fantastic. This would work very, very well as a supplement to that, because there are ghouls who live within the Shadow Realms itself. So we get some new items, weapons. We get some appendices in the back with various different encounter tables. Of course, we get our challenge rating for the creatures. So we get by terrain, by challenge level. So here are those tactical maps that I was talking about. Give you a better view of them here. So another aspect of the Shadow Realms is that it's kind of in ways it's a dark reflection of like Midgard in a lot of ways. And then in a lot of ways it's absolutely different. So we get some ads for various different Kobold Press releases, and that is Book of Ebon Tides. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because I'm going to share some final thoughts about Book of Ebon Tides and provide my review score. So, reading through this, oh yes, that old Kobold Press magic was back. So as I had mentioned in my review of Layers, I was kind of like, I'm kind of surprised, because usually most of the releases I read through from Kobold Press are excellent. I mean, they are top notch, and I'm always very impressed. And Layers was sort of like, this is all right. These adventures are okay. Well, the magic's back. I could see having a lot of fun with the contents of Book of Ebon Tides. Something I think is kind of funny too is there's a section where it talks about etiquette in the Shadow Realms and kind of strange little entries. Like one of them is when entering a room, your presence should be announced in song. Like, okay, I like that one. And there's also like a status table, which your status can rise and fall depending on what you do. So, of course, if you attack a Fey Noble, that's a big hit to your status. And then, of course, helping the Fey will help boost your status. So there's a bunch of different entries there, which actually provide game masters with some great ideas for various different encounters as well. So really, really enjoyed reading through Book of Ebon Tides. I really like the Midgard's world. I really, really do. I'm hoping I get an opportunity to check out the new Free City of Zobek book, which is another gazetteer that I don't think it's out yet. I don't think it's arrived in print just yet. It might be out in PDF. I don't know. So, and once again, I honestly don't know if Kobold Press is going to send it along or not, because like this and Tales from the Shadows just showed up. I was like, oh, sweet. I was like, nice. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Book of Ebon Tides a 9 out of 10. It was coming close to that 10. I'll tell you, the reason why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10 is that I would have liked to have seen maybe about 30 more pages for the $49.99. That's what prevented it from being a 10 out of 10. Because at $50, I think these days, and yes, I understand the price of everything has gone up. I completely get it. But for $50, I like to see closer to 300 pages in a RPG release, especially a release that's not adventures. Because, of course, adventure books, you can get a smaller page count at a comparable price. And I feel, well, you're getting a whole lot of usage out of that, probably more so than you do in a setting book or gazetteer, things along those lines. But really, really enjoyed Book of Ebon Tides a whole lot. So let's see what was cooking in. Oh, there's some discussion about Black Flag in chat. So Agile Monk says, Black Flag, well, I love Kobold Press, was more like a quick fix for 5e. Kevin says, yeah, lots of people are criticizing what's been revealed so far as being too close to 5e. Honestly, even if they released the total 5e clone, I'd still support generic Kobold 5e over WotC. There are a lot of, I've said before, and as long as American Express, FedEx, I swear this is only diet soda. I swear this is only diet soda in here. Start doing my best Dean Martin, right? Light up smoke, being like, yeah, kind of stumbling. Which, strangely enough, most people may not know Dean Martin really wasn't as big a drunk as he portrayed on television. Although after his son died, I think he had some serious alcohol issues. Anyway, I like Dean Martin. I always thought he was a pretty cool guy. As a little kid, right? I wasn't around in the 50s, watching him and Jerry Lewis. I'm old. I'm not that old. Anyway, the discussion about Black Flag. So the madman said I had a commanding officer that would give you a 5 out of 10 for your performance. To him, a 5 represented going above expectation, which was the expectation. So Kevin says, I also wonder what people expected, given that Kobold Press announced that Deep Magic 2 would be compatible with both 5e and Project Black Flag. Well, okay, so one thing I will also mention, Flaming Heron says Jeff's getting drunk from those beer commercials. Yes, it's like I'm walking through a brandy distillery, because that's one of the issues with like brandy and off the top of my head, Hennessy is a cognac. Cognac distilleries are like that too, because they have to age, especially, the expensive cognacs, that they age them in these barrels for so many years. And if you walk through all those fumes, you get drunk walking through. So, yes, I learned that when I was bartending for those big money resorts in Arizona, because we would have cognac reps come in. We'd get to taste all these like $300 cognacs. When I say $300 cognac, I mean 2 ounces of cognac, $300. Good stuff, though. Anyway, the funny thing is, there is so much that really should be just Creative Commons, which will now be the case for 5e. Because there is so much in 5e mechanically. I'm not talking about the creatures and the places and spells and things like that, the things they can copyright. But there are so many pieces in 5th edition D&D that actually aren't something that TSR or Wizards of the Coast created. So mechanically, it's not as if, the only game that ever uses a D20 as far as action resolution is Dungeons and Dragons. So I could see much of what Operation Black Flag turns out to be being very similar, because once again, Kobold Press isn't going to want to just completely write off Dungeons and Dragons. Although I admit, I would like to see Kobold Press do stuff for 2nd edition Pathfinder. I think the reason why they don't is because it really is quite different than D&D, especially with the 3-action economy. So, but I would like to see them do more, because they used to. Actually, and I might be wrong, but actually I thought prior to 2nd edition Pathfinder, Kobold Press used to release stuff for both D&D and Pathfinder. And I thought Pathfinder was kind of their bread and butter back at that point in time. Now, I could be absolutely wrong, but it's kind of what I thought. Maybe I could be absolutely wrong, but I don't know. Madman says they have a liquor store near them that has a bottle of cognac for $13,000. I'll tell a funny story and wrap up. So I worked at the Arizona Biltmore, and I tended bar there at the only bar that was open after 6 p.m. So it was the main bar. And we had Louis the 13th, which is from Hennessy. And elements of Louis the 13th are actually from the reign of Louis the 13th. That's why it's called Louis the 13th. And the bottle that it's in is crystal. I'm trying to remember who made it. But just the empty bottle sold for like $2,000. And I had a new bartender working with me. And of course, at the end of the night, closed down the bar. And, this is a big big money, big fancy resort. So, I mean, old money hung out at this resort. So, of course, we'd wipe all the stuff down. We had a lot of glass everywhere, glass shelves and that. So we would keep what we would refer to as Louis tray up on the top shelf. So he's up there wiping something down, and I'm doing something below, and he drops it and just shatters it. And it's like, oh my God. So, of course, had to talk to the bar manager, and the bar manager was like, well, we got insurance and things. Accidents happen. It's a pretty expensive accident, but yeah, okay. So we would always have like one backup in our storage. So we got that. So 3 days later, I'm working with the same guy. And, he's the newbie. So, of course, he's doing the cleaning. I'm doing, other less less strenuous side work. And he's up there and he's wiping stuff down. And I told him, I said, all right, man, be careful with that. And he dropped the other one. Busted the other one. That was it. He was out the door. I was like, it's nice working with you, man. Sorry. It's like, talk about a bad. So Mike S says, oh, wow, that is a bad day. Well, talk about a bad week. And the bar manager was like, how come he was up there wiping stuff down? And I'm like, because that's the job. It's like, you figure you drop something once, you are going to be super careful not to drop something again. So, Flaming Heron says, sucks to be him. Yeah, it did suck to be him, because that was back in the day when people tipped, and they tipped really well. We used to get celebrities all the time hanging out at the bar. So it was that was back in the day when I made a lot of money and I blew a lot of money. So just on, nothing to show for it either. All righty then. So tomorrow, as long as it arrives in time for the live stream, we are going to take a first look at Dungeons & Dragons, Keys from the Golden Vault from Wizards of the Coast. So that will be on tomorrow's show. If for some reason it doesn't arrive in time, and every once in a while, FedEx shows up at like 9 o'clock with stuff, 9 p.m. So that could happen. So if that does happen, we will continue our Kobold Press week. And then on Thursday, I will have a special live stream. But I assume, you know what assuming does, but I assume that we will see that tomorrow. So we will take a look at the latest adventure compendium for Dungeons and Dragons. And I will start digging on into it so that I will have a review of it prior to it hitting stores next week, so people can make an informed buying decision. So next week, I do also want to remind you, there will not be a show on Monday. So there will only be 2 shows next week. And I believe I will have my best friend Elliot Miller joining me for live stream episode 900, which is coming pretty soon. Pretty soon. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. And if you can, leave a quick comment, because I know a lot of folks are always curious, hey, Jeff, how can we help spread the word? That's like one of the best ways, is to thumb up the video and then leave a comment. Doesn't have to be a novella, but it shows engagement. And that's really what helps the mastermind computer over at YouTube decide how it goes about sharing videos. But of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I stream the Dispatch live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also inform you when I upload original videos, such as my series, The Classic Cthulhu Case Files, which I tackled the second adventure in Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, Look to the Future, and discussed how I would run that adventure today at my table. All right. So if you're watching live, thank you very kindly. If you watched live and took part in chat, a tip of the cap to you as well, because not only are you keeping me company as I babble on, you're also keeping each other company as I babble on. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day, as well as the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be in your neck of the woods. I will be back tomorrow. And of course, here's hoping each and every one of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
Oh, hey, you're still here. That's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.